Pembe Tokluhan. I'm the founder of Petok Productions and Generation Uncovered. And I do a lot of different things. I stage manage, I'm a sound engineer, produce events, manage a band, manage a rapper, work with artists, just do loads of different things. I do public speaking, carpentry, gas work, electric, fix the light bulb.
Okay, jeez. All right, multi-skilled trades and that. That's mad.
Jack of all trades, just kind of everything, to be honest.
Yeah, no, like it sounds like you just get how you live, really.
Yeah.
Just like, whatever you kind of...
Whatever kind of takes me, but mainly creatively. I mean, I'm very creative, so I started off kind of studying music production and business, but played sax and steel pan back in the day.
Damn, okay.
And then kind of went on from there, and just music was one of those industry. You know what? It's a weird one. I fell into music because sports didn't accept me because of my records.
Okay, that's interesting. So you kind of forced to go to music.
Well, it was always either music or sports.
Yeah.
So I think I'm not fussed. You know, I'm still an active person, but music is definitely where my heart lies now. Yeah.
Cool. All right, let's take it back a bit. Let's start, because I know you in terms of the context of meetings and meeting you in different spaces and where you've shared a bit of your story and your journey. So I don't know, wherever is a good beginning point for you, but I guess for me, knowing a bit about your journey, school is like probably one of the starting points. So because I know you haven't had like the best schooling experience. So yeah, like you touched on not being able to do sports and then kind of going on to music. So what did you mean by that?
So I was meant to be going into, so I'll start from the beginning. So I went to school, but I wasn't necessarily academically strong. I guess my ADHD got in the way of a lot of things. So having an attention deficiency made it look like I wasn't paying attention a lot of the times, or I wasn't interested in school, but I was, I was going through my own way of dealing with it. And I guess a lot of the times when you are in education, there's this kind of way of thinking where you have to be academically strong, you have to be getting A's, and you have to be good at everything, and you have to be able to sit there for 45 minutes and look at a screen. Like, I can't do that. And I guess I didn't know how to express myself in that way. So, you get in, it's like, this is the lesson, that's what you're meant to do, and that's it. So over time, I started getting excluded. I started, they were saying I was disobedient, or I wasn't listening, or I was aggressive, and all of that stuff. So I ended up kind of not doing so well in school. So by year 9, I was kicked out of mainstream secondary school.
Can I ask a quick question there? So like, how much do you think of that was like you actually being a bad child, or like the school not necessarily knowing how to deal with?
That's a very funny question. I don't think there's anything called a bad child. I don't think there's such thing as being a bad child. I think there are traumatized kids. I think there are kids that can't express themselves for whatever reason that may be. And I believe that I was just one of those young people. I believe I was just a young person living in a deprived area, going through whatever issues I was going through, wanting help in some ways, and I guess that school structure of just going to school and you have to be this way, there wasn't that emotional or mental support there as well. And I guess there are parts that I play in it. So if I was a teacher, I would want that one bad youth to come out of my classroom if they're disturbing 100 other kids as well. I get that. Course. I do understand where the teachers are coming from. I understand all of that.
Under-resourced and all of that stuff, so it's a lot harder to...
And if I was a teacher, I would want that one kid screaming in the classroom to get out as well. But I'm not saying I was screaming in the classroom. I think that there are just different ways to catering to young people rather than just excluding them. Everybody just goes for that easy alternative of boxing young people. And I think education boxes young people from a very long time, just like how they're boxed in general, whether they're black, whether they're Muslim, Christian, whether they're gay, straight, whatever that box is.
You have to fall into some sort of category, some sort of like...
And it's like, you don't have to be labelled or categorised. We don't have to be. So I think I had some role to play in it, but I was a kid.
Yeah.
So I think how much of a role do I really have when I am a kid who's not able to express what they're going through as well?
Facts, yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Okay, so you got kicked out in year 9. All right, and what happened then?
So I guess... So I grew up in Hackney and I got involved in kind of drug dealing gangs at a very young age. And I wouldn't say I looked at it like drug dealing or gangs. It was my people that I grew up with. So that was my gang. And anything classified, a group of more than 3 or 4 is a gang anyway.
Yeah.
So, that was my family. And I guess I kind of stuck with that. And that kind of had an influence on my behavior in school as well. So I started getting into a lot of fights. And when I was excluded from school, it was mainly because I was getting into a lot of fightings and stuff. So I had a big fight.
Like fights in school or like outside of school?
Fights in school, outside of school. I guess I was just angry.
Yeah.
I was angry for things that I didn't understand. I was angry as a young person. And I guess all I needed was that one adult or that one person maybe that I wish could have been that. There were a few individual you always get those staff members or those iconic people that you remember in your life.
Yeah, of course.
And everybody has their different ones. Yeah, shout out to them, you know what I mean? And they really helped me. But I guess I just kind of fell off with the cracks. I guess I became a product of my environment in some sense. I wanted the latest kickers. Mummy didn't have peace to get kickers. I'm going to make peace to get kickers. That was just the mentality. And
kickers were a big thing back in them days. It was such an embarrassment if you didn't have the kickers as well.
You can't go there with the wallabies, man.
I did as well. I had to.
The shoe zones. I tried not to. I'm not saying anything against it, but I guess it is that thing of living up to that kind of standard in some ways as well. And you don't really want anyone to have a reason to make you feel like you're not, inclusive. Everyone wants to be inclusive, whether that's everybody that used to wear their little Talibans and all the girls that used to wear their colourful little, bands on their heads. And then you started seeing loads of different girls doing it.
Yeah, I remember the shambalas.
And the shag bands and whatever they were called and all of that just random stuff that people used to just do.
It's fitting in, right?
Yeah, it's about fitting in. And I guess school wasn't my best place.
Okay, so would you say in relation to you being kicked out? Wait, so when you got kicked out, was that when you started to get into gangs and stuff, or what people would call gangs? I know you said your family, and obviously I respect that. So how did that happen?
I guess it made it a lot more easier and accessible to me because having school as well as going back home after school and getting involved in things. And it wasn't even getting involved in things as such. It was just chilling in youth club, and whether that's, just giving someone a draw, which is, such a big thing. It wasn't perceived as such a big thing for us, or smoking some weed. That was just what we did.
Yeah.
I guess not being in school, I'll be honest, the week that I was actually kicked out of school, that same week, I had a lot of issues, personal issues going on with my family. And I actually got arrested for 3 or 4 different things that week. So that can't be that much of a coincidence as well, and that made me a persistent young offender.
So how much did the school know about what was happening outside of school?
The school knew quite a lot.
Okay.
The school,
and he still kicked you out?
Yeah, the school did know quite a lot. I guess, I made it very clear that my life was in danger the day that I was excluded permanently, and that I didn't want to be put in this situation and I needed to go home. And they didn't believe me. They just couldn't believe that was a life that someone could be living. And there are young people living these lives, and if they're coming to you and actually 100%. Trying to confide in you and tell you that they need to just go home, just let them go home. A young person's not going to be at school and just say they want to go home. And I think if the school had maybe not excluded me then and actually dealt with it in a different way, maybe my life wouldn't have turned out the way it was, But I don't regret anything that happens in my life as well.
Just quickly, because I know obviously one of the events that I've seen you at has been the Governors Conference.
Yeah.
And so with that, what do you think is happening with kids in schools today? Do you think they're getting that support when they're obviously coming to teachers, to staff with cries for help?
I think that in general there is, a lack of resources point blank for teachers, for, you know, social workers. And I think there is a lot more that can be done. I think sometimes when teachers are in the roles they're in, they need to understand that there is a safeguarding responsibility as well. So even if a child comes in looking, you know, distressed, or if a child comes in and maybe they're not talking as much, or maybe they're hitting all the kids, you know, I think these are signs that could be flagged up a lot more in young people's lives at an earlier stage. Like, I think the craziest thing that I found out of that meeting was there is only one report that's done for young people. So that one report is basically, it kind of sums up your whole primary school life, telling your secondary school what's going to happen, like kind of giving your secondary school a bit of a heads up to who you are, but you're not really that person that you was in year 1 and year 2 and year 3 and year 4. And how much of that actually talks about your emotional needs. So for me, it's all well and good that there's SEN reports, which are statement of educational need reports that determine if a child has, you know, dyslexia or dyspraxia or ADHD, whatever that you know, that disability or that issue may be, there is a way to help them. But why is there not an emotional, mental vulnerability assessment that's done for kids? What about the wider things that you can, from what you can see? There's more to what you can see. Do you get what I mean? And I definitely think there are a lot missed in kids' lives. I think primary school is key. You know, what kids are doing, what they're saying, how they behave, it's key to their development. You know, if a child is neglected versus a child that's not neglected, they develop half the brain capacity. You know, up till the age of 7, you determine most of your personality and your characteristics are determined, you know, from when you get to 7. That's what you remember. You remember a lot of that. Traumas that you live affect you. You know, so how do we kind of stop labeling kids? Because there's no bad kids. There are no bad kids. You know, there are just vulnerable young people who sometimes just can't speak for themselves. Okay. You know?
So what do you think would, just quickly, I guess, and then we can move on to some other stuff. But like, what would you think is like should be some of the solutions that are put in place to help kind of give staff the support to kind of acknowledge these signs? And like the reason why I asked this question is because what the schools are kind of currently doing, or what it kind of may seem like they're doing, is they kind of see that as the family's fault, or like not their responsibility.
Yeah, as it's the family's responsibility to deal with that.
So, and I don't necessarily think that's true, because we spend a lot of time at school, a lot of time. You can argue it has as equal impact as your family life.
I think same
or your
way,
social environment more so, maybe not just school, but like your social environment, and school is a big part of that.
I think same way when you're at work, I don't know, 75% of your life or whatever it is, if you're in a full-time job, a lot of your time is spent at work, and that employer has a responsibility for your mental well-being as well. So why should it be any different if you're a young person that's in school that has no say even in your, you know, emotional, mental, physical well-being? If you're a young person who's in school and, you know, you can clearly see that a lot of these young people can't talk for themselves. Yeah. Some of these young people are expressing things that are clear red flags that they can't actually talk to their families about, because maybe it's their families that are putting them through these things. Or, you know, and I think there needs to be a safer space for young people to come to talk to. I guess it is the parents' responsibility. Yes, it is. And it does start at home, and it does start in the neighborhood and in the community. But the teachers are a part of that. When I went to school, my mum and dad always told me to respect your teachers like your mum and dad, because they're going to teach you how to get through life, just like your mum and dad are. So I think those teachers need to understand that they have that responsibility too. So yeah, definitely. I think down to like, I was just watching 13 Reasons Why. This is so random, but I was watching 13 Reasons Why.
I've heard about that.
You know, there was a counsellor guy on there, and you know, the girl come and she said, you know, I feel like this is going on. I don't want to be here, and he didn't flag it. And all it takes is a little flag sometimes. You know, I guess there's things that I've personally experienced or even seen people that are signs of trauma or things that are going on in their life or around their life that are not being flagged. And I think sometimes these older figures, whether they're teachers, youth workers, whatever they may be, they need to be able to identify that these young people are going through things, and it is their responsibility to make that clear to everybody,
Facts. No, I totally agree. Cool. I think that was just, I didn't expect to go into like the more like the solutions and stuff, but I think it's important to talk about that because even for me, like, I think it would be good to see the community start to supplement some of the things that the teachers and the schools don't do. So, for example, providing those safe spaces, which I guess youth clubs do and stuff like that, but more so even
they're all going now.
Even in those situations, how many of the youth workers that are there or the staff that are there have that kind of safeguarding training or that knowledge and are taking it into consideration?
I don't know about the safeguarding training, but I do definitely want to say this part of it. Yeah. So I've just recently actually got work as a youth worker.
Nice.
Working with young people in youth clubs, and one thing that I brought up to them was, this application process was excruciatingly painful because it was not. It really, really was.
What, to become a youth worker?
To even get an interview, it was fill out a personal statement, put the cover letter, but the personal statement was like coming up to almost 2,000 words, and then you had to do a verbal reasoning test, and there was so much hurdles and things that you had to go through that even I was like, why am I even doing this? And I think when it comes to social workers, youth workers, teachers, sometimes when they're dealing with the type of young people they're dealing with, they need to be able to relate to them on a personal level.
Facts.
And if you haven't lived through that or you haven't experienced that, sometimes those people like the youth man that are out there, or people, anybody who's kind of not necessarily academically strong, they don't get the chance to be youth workers. But they're the people we need.
It's true.
So if they started maybe employing people like that, who have lived the real things, who maybe can't write 2,000 words about themselves on a personal statement because they've never heard one good thing about themselves even.
But could easily learn how to become a youth worker and stuff like that. Get the training and stuff.
And can get the training, and that makes them able to be in it. I think the youth workers, some of them are great. Social workers, some of them are great. Resources are cut. But I think sometimes they're just in the wrong places. They're not the right people in the right places for that kind of background of people. It just doesn't work,
Cool. All right. What was the next milestone after that then? So we talked about school for a bit. I know you spent some time in Prus, so people referral units. I guess maybe just talking about your time going from how did you go? So from being kicked out, going into Prus.
Oh, I just went Pru, man. I just went. So I went to Stokey School. I left there. And I got put into the Pru across the road. So if you can imagine, I'm just watching my school friends just in the school. I don't think it could have got any more painful than that. Yeah, I'm 13, 14. You shouldn't do that to young people, point blank. But it was fun because we were not bad kids, but that's what we were labelled as. So we were like, well, then we'll act bad. So it was fun to go off and, smoke or go off and just bunk school for the day and chill in the park or whatever it was. So I went Daniel House. And then I went to another Pru, and then I went to a football Pru, and then I went to a college for a bit, and then I went to one-to-one tuition. I think I ended up staying in the one-to-one tuition because nowhere took me after that. But then actually, after I came out of school and everything, when I got arrested around that time, I just basically ended up in youth custody. That was when everything turned different. It spiraled for me. And I went from being...
That's big, man.
Being out here, being this 14-year-old young person who was permanently excluded and was still, I wasn't saying I wasn't up to things. I was up to things, but there could have been things that possibly could have helped stop that. And then I ended up in youth custody. So I went into youth custody when I was 14 years old.
So what is that? What is, because I doubt many people know. Like,
Yeah.
they may have an idea of what that is.
So the legal age of responsibility in the United Kingdom is 10. So anybody over the age of 10 can go into custody. Like it's not the same type of prisons, but it is still a prison. It's either a secure training centre or secure children home. Yeah, you're still incarcerated. All your privileges are gone. You still are locked up in a confined space around people who maybe have killed people and done some things that are unbelievable, you know.
Quick question with that then, just because you said that.
Yeah, go on.
What was like the maddest, like did you meet many people in that?
Do you know what? I met a lot of people. I met some really fucking horrible people. Damn. And I met some really nice people that done some horrible things, you know. I know that sounds mad. But you know what? They would have, even some of these, they might be called murderers, but you know what? They were real people that were just going through things. And sometimes, I guess I look at it different now because I was in a youth prison. So I look at it like a lot of those young people just needed help. They really, really, really needed help. You know, I met some young people that were just in there because they were just, you know, bad. You know, these just little bad breeds. They're just there, you know, they're just bad. Yeah. But then there was some people that just fell through the gaps, man. And, you know, I feel sorry for some of them. You know, some of them, I don't think a lot of them will come back out again. Yeah. You know.
So what happens then? Like, so what, like, obviously, how do you know?
I'm 21, I'm going to be 22.
Okay, so like, and you came out when?
I came out when I was 15.
Okay, and you've had an incredible journey since then.
A lot's changed.
Just from someone hearing it, you know what I'm saying? I don't know if you would use that word yourself.
Yeah, like, I mean, a lot's changed. Yeah, I would say it's definitely been an eye-opening last 6 years of my life. Everything has changed for me. I guess it was more of an epiphany more than anything.
Jeez. Okay, talk to me about that. Yeah. Because that's serious stuff if you're having like...
I guess...
Like a midlife crisis.
Yeah, man. I guess you hear a lot of people... You know what? You hear a lot of people when they're young, they get arrested, yeah? Yeah. You hear a lot of people, they get in trouble, they get excluded. But it's very rare to hear somebody at 14 to do quite a while. And I was there for a while. I was there for about 312 days, maybe about 11 months. And... it was a lot, I think, for
what did you go through in those 312 days? 'Cause I'm sure depression hits you. I'm sure.
Oh yeah, I mean, when I was in there, man, I got put on antipsychotics, antidepressants. I was like this drugged up child.
That's crazy. At 14,
walking
15.
around, you know, this drugged up child, because that's how they controlled a lot of the young people in there. So I think there was only one person in the whole like youth detention center that did not have medication. Everybody was on medication. Wow. They'd wake up in the morning and you line up at the door. It's meds time, and you got to walk to your meds. It's just mad. It's mad. It's like this routine of controlling kids. And yeah, depression does hit you hard, man. Depression hits you real hard. Your friends, you start to see who your friends are, who's not the friends, who's real, who's not. When you're 14 and you've got Facebook with 1,000 friends, but no one's writing you a letter, you're like, what? Like, why? You know, should be out there with my friends.
Yeah, no, I feel you.
Yeah, but like, I just think, I think you have to look at how much they done for you, how much you do for them, how much of it was that friendship as well.
Of course,
and, you know,
of course.
The reality
How real was it?
Would they have wrote to you, or is that your bedroom you chilled with every day? Because you better be going and seeing man, because you're a waste man if you ain't doing that, bro.
I feel that.
You know, you are not real if you're not doing that. If you're not talking to them on the phone, or you're not... Bro, do you know how important it is to pick up a phone call? Like, how important it is, like, to have that 10-minute phone call and for someone to pick that phone call.
So how many people did you actually have, like, interact and call you and stuff like that?
What, call-wise?
Or letters, whatever, any type of, like, communication. Because that's 14, 15, I'm sure that's vital, man.
You know what? I got a lot of odd one letters. And people, and I heard that a lot of people took pictures of it and put it up on Facebook. Like, I wrote to Pems and, you know, all of that stuff. But
what do you think about that?
I just thought, just get a life.
It's a bit mad.
Yeah, just get a life, bro. You know, and I guess a lot of it is done to show people, like, someone will feed a homeless person and go, look. Yeah. You know, it's not that deep. I feed homeless people every month. I make a pot of soup. Do I put it on YouTube or whatever, Instagram? No. You know, it's not that deep. The world doesn't need to see everything from it. And
do it if you have the pure intention to do it.
yeah, you got to have a real intention behind it. But I got a lot of odd one letters. I had, my partner at the time, who's my partner now.
Sick.
She wrote to me every 2 days. She picked up my phone call every single day and had a 10-minute phone call with me.
Shout out to her,
20-minute on a Saturday and Sunday. Shout out to her. Like, seriously. No, seriously. She did. She helped me a lot. And I guess she was my rock in there because that was the main person I spoke to. Other than her, I spoke to my mum, my dad, a few other people. But that was it, really. Just kind of me, myself, and I. And I learned the hard way in there. I learned when, as time was going on longer and longer, less and less people were writing to me. And there wasn't really anyone writing to me. And, I remember sitting in my cell and turning 15 and having a lighter and a little zoot that I rolled in this little short Rizzler that I was sitting there and I had to put towels under my door and smoke it down the drain and everything. Like, had to just have, I remember all of that. And, it is, I guess, when you're that young, you kind of feel alone. So when you come out, you're a bit like reluctant to believe that any of your bedrooms are going to want to be your bedrooms as well, or were your bedrooms. So, yeah, that was kind of a trial and tribulation I went through. I guess I saw a lot of traumatic things. I could say it like that, definitely. Traumatic things that made me realize that this isn't the place that I wanted to be. There was people dropping like flies at the time when I was inside, like people that I knew personally that were passing away and shit.
Mixed gender, or was it just...
Mine was mixed gender.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
Mine was mixed gender. So that was a bit weird as well. But obviously there's no contact. It's zero contact policy. You can't even sit next to someone and touch, can't sit next to them. You can't even.
Jeez.
But...
And what, do people just stick to that? Was that something that...
No, I guess not. Everybody wants to be touched. Of course. Everybody want to be touched, Well,
what would be the punishment of that? Like, was there any punishment?
Just going yourself for the day or something.
Okay,
I was on bronze anyway, so there's like these award schemes. Like, I was on bronze for the whole thing. That basically means you don't get no TV, nothing. So I had I think I had 1 month of TV time probably in the whole time I was there.
Jeez.
Yeah, so I didn't have no TV.
So what was that like coming out? Like did you have a phone or anything like that?
Yeah, what in there?
Yeah, in there.
No.
So what was it like not having
that
connection to the world? Because even like nowadays you see people in bin and they got TVs, they got phones and stuff. They still have some connection. But that sounds like that was quite like a...
Yeah, that was a proper no connection type of thing. I mean, the most I had was MP3 still. I had a little MP3, I remember that.
Like a Walkman or something?
Yeah, like just one little stick thing. I told someone to download some tunes on there for me and I was listening to all...
Oh, what, the Sony Ericsson?
Akon locked up and everything, man. I was thinking, this is sad.
That's, bro.
But, yeah, man, it does wake you up. It does wake you up. And I think there's always a way before that. It doesn't have to be resulting in that.
Yeah, for sure.
There's always other alternatives.
What was your kind of status, I guess, with being gay? And like, is that something that you had come out with and everybody knew before you went in? No, not
when I was young. I was very homophobic,
Oh, really?
Do you know what?
Okay.
Yeah, man. I was really homophobic. Like, I guess I was just in denial.
Yeah.
Like, I remember my school was one of them schools where they spoke about being gay really openly. And we were like, no, man, that's a baby boy thing. Like, we never really spoke about that stuff. And no one in my family... I'm sure there's some gay people in my family, but nobody in my family has ever openly said they are gay. Never. So it was a big thing.
Mad taboo, yeah.
Yeah, and I actually told my parents when I was inside because I needed my girlfriend at the time to come and see me. Like, my girlfriend needed to come and see me. So I was like, yeah, I'm really sorry, but, she's my girl. And, they were like, obviously, because they don't want me to be stressing that, they were like, you know what, that's her friend. We will bring her friend over, and it was always referred to as the friend.
Yeah.
I just thought, it's cool. I don't really care. But she got to come and see me, which was really, really nice. But I guess it was hard. It's hard even now in a lot of ways. Like in my country.
Speak about that for a bit then.
Yeah, like in my country, I'm from Cyprus. I'm from the Turkish side of Cyprus, and being gay isn't even, I don't even think it's legal. Like, there are gay people, but
Have to
they're
keep
not
under wraps.
openly gay.
Yeah, yeah.
You will get attacked. Like, there's no gayness to it. You can't say you're gay. You know, I have gone to Cyprus and denied, you know, partners that, you know, a partner that I was with. You know, I've kind of just had to lie about being me. And now I do, like, I always say to people, yeah, I'm an alcohol drinking gay Muslim. If you have a problem, then that's your problem. It ain't my problem. I'm content with it.
Yeah.
You know, I grew up, you know, learning about Islam. I grew up reading. No, I taught myself to read the Quran. When I was inside, I read the whole Quran. I didn't have to do that. You know, I've never really come from a practicing family, but that was something that I looked into. But then I realized that obviously everyone questions religion over time. I don't want to get into that too much, but you know,
It's fine.
just
babe.
do your
Just
thing,
walk up,
girl.
yeah.
Just do your thing, man.
Just walked past. It's fine.
And she still gets slowly as well. No. Yeah, I guess it is something that's difficult. I guess even now, my mum and dad would probably turn around and say, oh, that's a phase. It's a phase. That's like a very big thing they love to say, like a phase that you probably will overcome one day.
So who did you confide in then? Like, 'cause I'm sure that's a very like lonely experience, like not being able to actually have somebody to support you with that. So who did you confide in? Was it your partner at that time?
I
Even
mean,
before that,
she didn't get to tell her family as well because they're homophobic, and she's from a Caribbean background.
Okay.
And, you know,
Yeah. Okay.
I guess Asian, Turkish, Caribbean, African.
Ethnic minorities,
It's like
basically,
the
all
ethnic
BAME,
minority mentality of, you know, the way they look at things is quite backwards in a lot of ways. But then
very
again, we
traditional.
say backwards, but we have the privilege of living in a westernized world where we get to think forward as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, maybe if we were living in those places,
We'd think the same. It's society, innit? And like
Yeah.
how that impacts how you think and how you view people and how you perceive things.
yeah, definitely. But I guess I wouldn't ever change myself for anybody,
Okay.
you know.
So what do you think about the climate now, though? So like in terms of the LGBTQ,
I think it's a lot
environment
better,
now.
man. Oh my God, big time. Black Pride in Hackney this year. That was big. That was a massive turnout.
yeah, no, I think like was that the first time there was a
No. Black
Okay.
Pride's been going on for I don't know how long now, but a good few years.
Okay.
And it started off with a lady called Lady Phil, and I remember kind of going to the conference in Hackney Town Hall for it. And she was saying that it was a group of women and they kind of made this group chat or this kind of, I don't remember what exactly she said, but they kind of formed this group and they got on this minibus and they went to Southend, and that was the first ever Black Pride. And then it kind of grew from there. So last year it was in Vauxhall. This year it was in Hackney. It was like, I think over 10,000 people attended this year from so many different backgrounds that probably would never get
it
the
was
chance
packed,
to.
man.
Oh, it was so packed.
It was packed.
And there was this kind of big emphasis on LGBT people for a lot of years, but it was mainly the face of white LGBT people. It was very difficult even for LGBT people to walk down Dalston and feel like they could walk into certain
Hold hands
gay
and stuff.
clubs or hold hands or do certain things, but actually the kind of white LGBTQ community was, I guess they were a bit more accepted with it.
Let's go through this.
It's all right. Yeah, I guess they were a bit more accepted with it. I think it's definitely turning into something revolutionary. I think people need to be able to be themselves, you know, and not deny who they are.
Facts.
For
Facts.
real, man. I
And-
think we don't get that chance to
Okay.
talk up like that.
Cool. So, did you want to talk more about I guess the pride or the LGBT and that kind of BAME focus? Because like we were talking off air a bit earlier
I
about
think
that.
for me, the focus on BAME, you know, ethnic minorities and being LGBTQ, I think that's a very, you know, dear topic to me, because I think we come from colonial mentalities that makes us feel like we can't do certain things. You know, we're not allowed to do certain things, or we should shut up about certain things, or certain things are taboo or embarrassing. But actually, why shouldn't we be able to talk about it as well? Why shouldn't a black man be gay with it? Or if a Asian woman wants to be gay, or whatever it is, whatever they want to be, like, people should be able to feel like they can be themselves. And in the BAME community, there is this thing of shame, shame of being gay, or shame of what others are gonna say, and no one actually cares, auntie. Like, we don't care, because it's not you. Just because you might not like that doesn't mean that I don't like women, because I love women. Like, if that's wrong to people, let it be wrong to you. I think that we definitely have an advantage living in somewhere like the UK.
For sure, yeah.
Like,
and even in London as well.
Yeah, London,
I'm sure other parts of the UK are not so liberal.
Yeah,
or not so progressive. Maybe not liberal, yeah.
Yeah, like, I think if you were to come out of London and go to certain places, there are a lot of homophobic people, racist people, whatever it might be. London is this small world in a way, like this small happy world in a way. And that's all well and good. But then once you come out of that as well, you need to learn to respect that actually some cultures and some countries might not respect it in that way. So out of respect, I wouldn't go and openly tell people in Cyprus, I'm gay. I think they all know, and I think sometimes there needs to be the respect in how it's put in people's faces as well. If you're a 60-year-old old Nigerian man, that's not something you've ever heard of. Yeah. It's just not. And I think people need to learn to not be so aggressive with it and not take it to heart. Like, it's not that they don't want to know who you are. It's just that that's not necessarily what they were taught to even be able to express. Maybe they actually were like that. Maybe they liked guys. I don't know. I think being LGBTQ, living in London, being from a BAME background now, we have a lot more places to go to, a lot more people to hear our voice, a lot more resources, a lot more support as well. There's a lot more mental health support. There's a lot more, like, even just sexual health support, understanding sexual health. I think the less we look at it as a taboo subject, the better we can kind of get with it.
No, for sure, because even that's something that I've been quite curious about recently. It's particularly to do with a lot of the talk around pronouns and stuff like that now. Have you seen Sam Smith's latest tweet about what he likes to be called?
So I saw a little something. They or them or something. Yeah.
So what do you, as somebody from the LGBT community, not saying that you have to be like you're not a spokesman for it, and you have to.
I'm definitely not. I've got my own views.
Exactly. But just someone that has more of a connection to it to me, because I'm very much approaching it with an open mind and trying to understand and trying to
as a heterosexual man trying to understand.
Exactly, and trying to start the dialogue with it.
I guess what people want to call themselves is up to them. If I want to be pink today, I'm gonna be pink today. If I
that's what happens as well, because people kind of take it to that stage.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there is, and I get that you don't want to be disrespectful with it as well. I saw this thing with Piers Morgan, and he was like, yeah, I saw something where he was kind of like, I'm a penguin. And it was like, you're not common, bro. You're not a penguin, bro. You're not a penguin.
That's what I mean as well. So it feels like there's a lack of dialogue here.
think I'm not going to lie, I don't really know how to feel about it. I just feel like if you want to be who you want to be, just be who you want to be. There was this kind of law that they were talking about where... So there's this law that I think it has been passed where, like, I can say my name's Bob. Like, my name's Bob today. Like, I'm Bob. Like, you have to call me by my name, Bob.
Jeez.
Like, yeah. And I don't know the ins and outs of it, yeah. But there was a moment inside me where it kind of felt like I wouldn't want a man that's called himself Jenny to be in the toilet with me and my daughter, or me and myself even. I don't want,
that's where stuff like that
and that's
comes
where
in
I think there's lines that need to be drawn with it.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
Because even, I would say that as well, like you saying that has kind of made me like realize.
Like, I don't like the multi-gender gender
yeah,
toilets.
But even, but for example, even in schools, like I want to be a bit careful with what I say here, because I think we should be as open-minded and accepting to everybody. But in schools, I think it could be particularly to do with maybe pronouns, the idea of maybe being a different gender. I don't know how, I've seen different kind of commentary and different kind of discussions around it in terms of like news and how certain schools are adopting new techniques and stuff like that. For me though, I think it's just my personal point of view, and I'm happy to be educated on this for sure. But I don't know if it's respectful to the parents at least and the family to have those conversations early on in schools, particularly in like primary schools and stuff like that, where kids can be influenced quite easily.
I don't know, because I just feel like...
And I'm sure I haven't articulated that very well. But,
if you're a young person and say, for example, the ethnic minority community, yeah, they might not necessarily have those conversations with you. Whereas some of the, I don't know, let's say middle-class white kids, they may have that chance to have those conversations as well. And I think in some ways, every child should be able to talk about that, because we do live in the UK, and if we do live in the UK, we do need to kind of in some ways adapt to the way they do things as well. And
so it's going back to that point about support, and like if you're not receiving that support at home, school could be a place to do that.
Yeah, do you get what I mean? Like if I was a child and I was in school, all right, say for example, I was a young girl and at home, all I ever wanted to do was play with trucks, my cousin's trucks, or my cousin's, I don't know, footballs. Yeah. And all the boy games or stuff like that, yeah?
PS4 and that.
Yeah. And if I went to school, say for example, my mum went, no, you need to play with a dolly. But then I went to school and I was 5 or 6 and that teacher told me that actually being a girl and playing with a truck is all right. Maybe that would actually make me feel good. I don't know. So it depends on the way it's done. Yeah. I think when it comes to talking about sexual things and they're very young, I think that should be passed through the parents, definitely.
That's kind of what I'm saying.
I'm sure when we were in school, like you could consent to being a sex ed or not. And there were some kids that didn't get the consent, like I'm sure.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I'm sure there was like some sort of form, whereas now I don't know if there is that.
I don't know if it's mandatory. I think some schools probably did it because they want to be on the good side of the parents and you don't want to get the backlash and stuff like that. Because I vaguely recall that being the case in my school, because we did have sex ed, but I don't know if
I'm sure they said that you got to sign a letter or something to make sure you're allowed to do it, and and I'm sure loads of kids didn't get the chance. Whereas now I think some schools I think it's compulsory. Yeah, I think some schools.
They have to get like
you have to get that information.
Okay, cool. Fast forward. We've talked about a lot of stuff.
I know.
Thank you for indulging me for sure.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Petok Productions.
Petok
Productions.
Pembe Tokluhan. So tick tock.
Hey. So what is like you've got the branding on, you've got on the which is looking good, I can't lie after. Yeah, man. Show it off.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. What's happening, man?
It's an idea that I had for some years. So where I do sound and I do events and backstage work, I realized over the years that there's a lack of women that are getting the chance to do those roles. It's a very male-dominated industry. So I thought of starting up a female-led production company. So Petok Productions is a female-led production company that recognizes women that work backstage in the creative industry.
Sick.
So mainly being photographers, videographers, sound engineers, hosts, lighting engineers, lighting designers, graphic designers, web developers. It's quite a broad variety of different females that do things. It's a platform for them to be on so that they can showcase what they do. It works as a directory. So if you're a young woman who is interested in becoming an associate, then please check out the website. Follow us on socials at Petok Productions. And it's a growing movement. It's just started. I've just literally launched the website over the weekend.
Nice.
I've got over 50 emails.
Wow.
In like 24 hours. I've got over 100 followers in 24 hours. Man. And it's very overwhelming. So I haven't been able to respond to anybody yet. But this weekend, I'm literally just putting my head down and I'm doing that. And I quit my job. In April. I was working full time as a production and technical manager in a venue, as well as doing loads of other stuff. And I just said, let me see if I can work for me. Let me see what I can create for me. So yeah, I mean, I'm just hoping that it is the next revolutionary thing for women in, working backstage in the creative industry. There are a lot of platforms that recognize women in sound, in lighting, or something in particular, but there isn't a platform in the world that actually notices a variety of different roles within the backstage and creative industry. And
why is it focused on the backstage? Because
backstage is something that's not necessarily, it doesn't really get that limelight. It doesn't really get that show. Like, okay, a lot of events,
is
so
very
you can go and watch a show.
Sure.
Yeah, you can go and watch a show, for example. How do you think the lights are getting turned on? How do you think my voice is coming through the microphone? Because if I don't press unmute and EQ it and do what I need to do, it's not coming out.
Yeah.
You know, how do you think you know when to come on stage, when you come on stage and stand where you stand on stage? These are jobs.
Do you think it's important with that? Sorry to cut you off, but with that, do you think it's important for, or that would be like really kind of viable for, like, for example, people that want to set up events, like female-oriented events, or maybe they're kind of targeting it for a female audience? Did you set it up to kind of maybe service that demand as well?
As a platform that could do a variety of different things over time. So one of those things being, if you were an event manager or an organization, you could get in touch with Petok Productions and say, we need 5 photographers, 2 sound engineers and a stage manager for a show that we're doing, and you send me over a spec and we agree a cost and we sign a deal. So it allows women to get work. It also gives women, there's a few women on the platform that don't have their own website. That don't have the money to make websites. It gives those women a platform for free to be able to say to somebody, go on Petok Productions and find me as an associate. If you're a producer in Kenya and actually you usually fly someone in from Europe, why can't you utilize a female sound engineer in Africa?
Yeah.
There's a lot of this global. Is the future. There's a lot that's going to happen from this. And I think for me as well, backstage in particular, going back to that quickly, I think there is this kind of thing to always be the rapper and always be the singer and
always be the main man or the main woman.
The main man, the main woman. And, you don't have to be that. There are careers in backstage.
I think that's really sobering for people to know as well, because you can't always be that main person.
Yeah, I don't remember. I've never sat in front of a camera and even done something like this, And I think you don't have to always be that person. It's so humbling to know that actually if I didn't press unmute, the microphone wasn't even going to work on that stage, and I set up that stage, or I rigged that light, or 100%. I said it, or whatever it is.
I think it's good for people to know that, so if you have those passions in music or whatever field it is, film or radio, any kind of technical, music, kind of creative, whatever, that there are other avenues to explore, because that's something that has been quite, that I've kind of benefited from, in terms of exploring those other avenues when that main kind of objective didn't really work out.
I guess for even just looking at you as an individual, you're on a producing app, you're using Logic, you have a video camera as well as a microphone, a sound card, you've rigged this, that's work, and a lot of that is actually stuff that you do backstage that people might not necessarily actually get to see.
Yeah.
But you learnt that. I started taping down leads and asking someone what's this lead? Oh, that's an XLR. Okay. I didn't know these things. And I think it just, for me, if it can show people that there are other ways to kind of still enjoy and be passionate about what you do, then just do it. You really, really don't have to be the top dog. I was working till 5 a.m. yesterday. And there was 16 guys. I was the only female. Oh, wow. They were like, where's the sound man? I was like, I'm the sound woman. Lovely to meet you. Cool. So you do get that a lot. You get where you don't really... It's just such a male-dominated industry, man. I've had enough of it. I went to BBC Introducing last year to one event, and DJ Target was filming, you know, they were doing a podcast recording for it. It's on Spotify as well. And I said it, you know, I said, what do you guys do to help people that work backstage? You know, Ants was on stage from I'm Just Bait, and I said, how do I get to be your stage manager? Why come and do your sound for your event? And you'd be so surprised to see how much people are actually reluctant to open those doors for you when you work backstage. And I hope that Petok Productions will do that. I hope that Petok Productions will be the future of where female creatives go to and feel safe and feel that they could share their talent with the world. Yeah.
I love that. Let the people know where they can find you, find Petok Productions.
Yeah, so we just launched the website, so www.petokproductions.com, or on Instagram, Petok Productions, so at Petok_Productions, that's Petok, just as you see.
Hey.
And drop me a line. My emails are on there as well. Even if you just want to connect, you just want to talk, just get in touch. You don't have to just be a woman. You know, I've got so many of my boys that I've grown up with in the ends that I bring to be my ASM, to be my assistant stage manager, to be my security, to be whatever it may be. Petok Productions isn't just for women. It's going to change the way people in the hood look at the creative industry and how they can get into it. And I hope that so many young people get to come through Petok Productions and get to where they want to get to. 100.
I love that. Thank you, Pembe.
Love.
Hey.